30th, when he announced that in a state announcement. Many people thought that maybe the president will be talking about what we will be doing, what we are, the political environment that we are coming into, especially now that we are just slightly less than 1 year to the general election. But he unveiled a grand plan that he wants us to not only look beyond Vision 2030, but beyond Vision 2060. That is what we'll be looking at on this first hour. And of course, we will also be looking at how the ODM Kenya Kwanza PG, that is parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha, is currently underway. But for now, first things first, let's first of all cross over to the Radisson Blu, where the Ministry of Health has organized media town hall, where you can ask all questions regarding health. Let's first of all listen in.
These are the payslip people. From the informal sector, we get between 500 to 700 million. Again, it fluctuates. I want to insist, this fund is contributory. So the people who will get the benefit from that fund are the people who've registered for that fund and paid for that fund. Now, what should we be doing? Someone asked what's going to happen going forward. What does the future look like? What are we going to be discussing next week? The idea is countries who've gone before us have ensured that their people pay into the SHIF fund. And how have they done this? One, proxy means testing. We've designed a mechanism that enables Kenyans who are in the informal sector to be able to contribute their premiums after we've done their proxy means testing. And it's not popular. Kenyans do not like proxy means testing. But I can tell you, the world over, countries who've put in place these systems need a mechanism to be able to define how you net in the informal sector. And for us, Kenya, we've started with the proxy means testing tool. When you means income is not predictable month on month, that tool enables us to determine what your monthly contribution would be, and you're paying into the SHIF fund. Going forward, we're exploring many mechanisms to bring in more Kenyans, particularly in the formal sector. And the first one is called agency model. We will set out agents who will be able to sell insurance the same way you see Britam and everyone else selling the insurance on the streets, knocking and saying, do you have a Jubilee cover? Do you have a Britam cover? Do you have this cover? We will have SHA agents going around and selling covers to the informal sector on commission for them to pay in to the fund. But at the end of the day, remember, SHIF is contributory. Now, someone asked, how many claims have we paid? And how many claims have we had submitted? When I get into the system so far, for SHIF, in terms of our collections for SHIF, let me just open this so that I read directly from the system. If you look at the primary healthcare fund, to date, Treasury has given us 27 billion. You got that? 27 billion. SHA, through PHC, has paid out 23 billion to providers. That's PHC. When you look at SHIF, this is the contributory fund, we've collected 151 billion. And this is over the last, since the inception of the fund. And we've paid out 134.7 billion. You've gotten those figures? We've collected 151 and paid out 134.7 billion. Then ECCIF, this is the new fund that we just launched. We've collected 8 billion and paid out 3.5 billion. Then we have the Public Officers Medical Scheme Fund.
Very well, that is the Health Summit, and that is currently being organized at the Radisson Blu, where Kenyans have a chance, even stakeholders have a chance to ask any questions to the Ministry of Health. Of course, a number of big questions because of the medical cover that is being enjoyed by a number of Kenyans, that is the transition to SHA. We will be getting a little bit more of that. My colleague Joseph Wahungu is currently following up on that bit. Very well. Just in case you joined us earlier on, I had mentioned about the Vision 2060 that we'll be talking about in this hour. Many thanks indeed for joining us. I'm Ben Troy, Njue, and I have a panel of experts here. But before I introduce my panel of experts, we're talking about Vision 2060, but we will be looking at the hits and misses for the Vision 2030 that was established more than 20 years ago. And we look at maybe what can we borrow from Vision 2030 heading to Vision 2060. If you do not know that the official launch will be done by the President tomorrow from beginning morning. Allow me now to introduce my panelists, beginning from my immediate left. We have a seasoned public policy analyst and also a political pundit, Leonard Kafafa. He's also an aviation expert. Karibu sana bana.
Asante sana Ben.
Just next to him, we have engineer Jackton Mwembe. Apologies, Mwembe. Jackton is an engineer and also a public policy analyst and governance expert. Karibu sana. It's been a while.
Asante sana, Troy.
And just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is also a governance and leadership expert and also a political commentator. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah,
seen a number of you. Yeah. But it's a good thing. We are talking about Vision 2060. But before we do that, allow me just to actually, let's point out what is currently happening in Naivasha. And my colleague Hashim Abdiaziz Hashim is currently keeping tabs with what is happening there. If you do not know, that ODM and the UDA parliamentary group that is being spearheaded by President William Ruto. From what we've heard since yesterday is that, I'll begin with you, Leo, we will be looking at broad-based we are looking at the broad-based government, which now wants to go into elections together 2027. I would like you to pick your mind in regards to this pact.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. The pact, as you're rightly putting it, is geared towards the elections of 2027. And if we've all followed the news, and we've seen that formations are coming together now.
Yeah.
And this is around the time formations ought to come together, really. I mean, we are exactly a year to the elections of 2027.
Yes.
And we know, actually, from precedent that no single party can go it alone in this country.
Yeah.
There isn't a party big enough to win the elections on its own. Parties have to come together, either 2 or 3 parties or even more, to form coalitions of sorts, so that they can go into the elections as credible competition.
Yeah.
So the government of the day, that is the UDA, or rather the KK administration, has had a rapprochement with the ODM party. And ODM, if you remember, in the last elections were their biggest adversaries.
Yes.
So there's a rapprochement between the two of them, and the two of them are now working together in that broad-based arrangement, and it looks like they want to formalize it so that going into the elections, they have an agreement basically about power sharing, about sharing of positions, about the responsibilities of each side. So that is what is happening at the moment in Naivasha.
Jackton, I'm looking at the pact, what the president talked about yesterday, and how the body language that we saw the members of parliament exhibit. The reason being, we have seen the mergers and pact being done, big ceremonies. If you remember TNA and, was it TNA and, to form Jubilee, TNA and URP. Yes. In, I think, 2013. There was a lot of pomp and color, but we didn't see that yesterday. So from where you sit, is this an alliance of ideology, interest, or even some political survival?
Thank you, Troy. From where I sit, there's nothing new that's going to come out of this. We have seen coalitions being formed just prior to the elections.
Yes.
And this is not going to be very far from it. So with pomp and, whether it's cool, what happens is that we are looking at people who are trading carefully, so that when the right time comes, that's when they'll be able to face the people. There's a bit of a challenge from the ODM side, and therefore it cannot be looked at as a new thing. And the way it has to come out to the people of Kenya, they have to make sure that their house is in order, because right now there's no unity. So UDA is just trying to come together with this party because it's a pact that they started together through the coalition with the coalition government. Yeah. But we are looking at a scenario where the ground is not certain with either coalition, whether it's the opposition or is the broad-based government. So they have to tread carefully, yeah, because there is going to be a shift. Because the ground has actually shifted in terms of even the voting. Yes. You saw 2024 what was happening with the youths. Yes. Young people, they are looking forward to taking up the government, yes. And they would be able to go into someone or support someone, yes. Who will be able to look into their interest. And I believe this is going also to come in, yes. In the vision that was the Vision 2060, which came up. What is the role also of these young people in participation? Well, how are they being engaged in the implementation and also the making of the vision?
Yes, some good information from engineer. But Doc, I'm looking at UDA and ODM. Both they want to not to merge per se, but more or less they want to go into the 2027 election together, but they are both fractured. This is the reason. UDA has lost a number of governors, has lost a number of members of parliament, of whom some have decided that UDA is not tenable again. Let's look at ODM as well. It's more or less like a split orange or half orange, because there's the Linda Mwananchi faction, which initially was part and parcel of ODM. The two parties are likely to sit down because they started a 10-man committee to also look at things like manifestos, also look at ideologies. And we know very well politics is a game of interest. Who is the most likely to benefit from this arrangement?
Ben, thank you very much. First, I think it has been long.
It's been a while.
I think it's been a long time. If I dive into the current arrangement of ODM and UDA broad-based government and preparation for 2027, there are quite a number of things that needs to be considered before we just conclude and say ODM will have this stake and UDA will have this stake and they'll go in together. What are those things? One, first and foremost, there is no solid leader for ODM who gives direction in regards to the party's future. Reason being, before this party had a solid leader who will make a decision, he could leave you and he could pick you. And on that note, he will propel the ideology of that particular party for that purpose. UDA solidly has a one-man show. Like the president is the party leader and he knows where his party's leadership weakness are and he knows where his strengths are. Now, there's one phenomenon that sometimes people lose a seat simply because they think of a situation where the current people who are in office are the ones who are going to make decision for 2027 and who should be elected. That is completely wrong. The party shouldn't be for the current leaders. The party should be for Kenyans. And it is the manifesto and the ideology of that particular party that will going to lead the process of who becomes who in this coming election. If that particular point is lost, and the president concentrates on the current members of ODM who are holding offices, and the current members of UDA who are holding offices, for purposes of his 2027 re-election, he's getting wrong. And that's why I'm thinking, leaders, perfect. We can talk about issues of national concern, issues of, which is emerging now. For example, the 2030, Vision 2030 and beyond that 2060 that people talk about, yes, as the current leaders. But who becomes the next leader in the next election should be determined by the people. And if the president decides on people who are pulling their agenda, and he makes a coalition or an arrangement that he thinks will going to elect them and bring back the president, I think that's wrong. For example, we have, for example, in Mandera West, let's not even talk about a lot of other places. In Mandera County, we already know the leaders who are currently there will not be there 2027. Community has already decided they are non-performers, they are corrupt, and they never did what they were expected to do, particularly development of that particular county. And it is similarly common across all other counties, including the only person we are sure that we will going to elect is the president. Reason being, he has dropped an olive branch for us, and we know why we are electing him again. We have our own reason, particularly the people from...
you yourself said that
yes,
the people we will decide.
Exactly. But the decision, actually that's a decision we have already, we are leaders on the ground, and we have already talked about it, and we have already agreed on whom we are going to elect, whether it is on what platform he will appear with. Dr. William Samoei Ruto will be our presidential candidate. That one we have no... But the other leaders who are trying to impress themselves on the president will not going to elect them. They will be elected by the people of that particular region. And therefore, anything, like my brother has said, anything that people agree on in ODM and UDA at the moment with the current leadership may not basically viable in terms of pulling forward or pushing forward or deciding the leadership of tomorrow.
And with all fairness, the president is the only one who has declared that I will be at the ballot. Of course, the other ones, the other group has to, decide who will be going against him. But picking from where Hassan has left, he has mentioned a very pertinent issue, including the matter of parties. We did see that ANC, which was headed by the current Prime Cabinet Secretary, did fold up. And we know very well when you have to, invite guests in your house, you have to make room. All right, let's first of all cross over to Naivasha, but you be marinating on that in regards to what happens to other parties and who is bringing what, because ODM has already talked about the number 2 slot. So how is it going to be? Is it going to be business as usual, or we'll have to sit down again and decide? First of all, let's cross over to Naivasha. That is where ODM and the Kenya Kwanza coalition are currently having their PG, and as you can see on your screen, that's my colleague Abdiaziz Hashim, who has been keeping tabs since they started on Sunday. Good morning and a warm welcome. What more can you tell us in regards to this meeting? All right, we will be getting back to Abdiaziz Hashim. We seem to be having a technical challenge in regards to our sound, but just in case you joined us, we are looking at the state of the nation. First and foremost, we are just wrapping up. Actually, what we have been discussing is exactly what is happening in Naivasha, the PG, the ODM versus Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group. But we'll be getting back to Naivasha. We did hear yesterday the two principals, that is Dr. Oburu Odinga and also Dr. William Ruto, talk about 2027, and they did hit the ground running. They have a 10-member committee that will be spearheading that, and of course one thing that they mentioned is that they are working on a joint manifesto. Leo, parties, there are a number of parties that form the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and ODM, to be fair, is a newbie in the coalition. But from its demands, they've talked about we have the numbers and we also bring quality. What are we expecting here? Because they have already talked about we want the number 2 slot. That could scuttle the inner workings of UDA.
I think it may be a little premature to conclude that the number 2 slot goes to ODM in view of their demands. This is a negotiation. like any other. It's a give and take. And the negotiation will involve not only the UDA side and with, of course, the former Prime Cabinet Secretary's interest taken into account.
Yes.
It will not only involve ODM, it will also involve other stakeholders. Like we have for I think the faction that is led by the Speaker of the National Assembly. That is, sorry, the name I just escaped my mind. But yeah, Ford Kenya.
Yes.
Ford Kenya and Wetangula's faction, you know. They're also stakeholders, and there are many other stakeholders. And all of these people have an interest. But that is why parties go into negotiations way in advance, a year to the elections, so they can come up and agree on one front, agree on which positions go to who, and then move forward as a unit. And we saw that in the last elections, when and this is what makes the KK side, led by His Excellency, more credible than most parties. Other parties in the past, or other formations in the past, have always had pre-election pacts that they have broken or they have repudiated after being sworn in. We remember the famous MOU of 2002.
Okay, kindly just hold the thought. I'm informed that we are now able to get to Hashim. Hashim, if you can hear me, good morning. A warm welcome to News Tech. And what more can you tell us in regards to the ODM Kenya Kwanza PG?
Good morning to you too, indeed, Ben Troy Njue. We're coming to you live from the Lake Naivasha Resort here in Naivasha constituency, Nakuru County. Of course, yesterday there was a lot of beehive of activities here within this particular vicinity, of course, with the broad-based government meeting and also the Kamkunjis that started on Sunday night to Monday as well, where they concluded also another Kamkunji now of the whole broad-based team. Now, of course, on Sunday it started with a Kamkunji of the UD and ODM just setting ground and understanding each other ahead of that particular meeting that you saw yesterday, of course, in over 6 hours to 8 hours event that was carried out here with the ruling party as well as the Orange Democratic Movement, just conversing on issues that they agreed upon. And of course, from that particular meeting you saw yesterday when President William Ruto was addressing later in the evening, as well as the ODM leader, that is Oburu Oginga, on the agreements between the two parties on the 10-member team that was formed, a joint team to form the manifestos over both the UDA regime as well as the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, just to christen the particular issues they were raising in both manifestos to ensure that it represents the issues and the needs that Kenyans want to be addressed at the end of the day. But the other point is that, of course, we're waiting to hear from President William Ruto as well as the ODM leader Oburu Oginga on the 10-man coalition team, or rather even a bigger team that will be discussing the coalition agreement, the leadership structure and other issues that will be affecting leadership changes within this particular coalition, and of course talk about the coalition agreements and talks that they're going to have ahead of the 2027 polls, with now that particular general election just around the corner. And of course, following that particular even ruling from the law courts in terms of when the election should be held, that is the Christian opportunity that the broad-based government had utilized to ensure that they discuss these particular issues as at now addressing Kenyans' concerns at the end of the day. Also of importance is that yesterday they tackled a number of issues from the affordable housing projects, with the government, of course, defending that particular project, clearly stating the reason why it is being situated on public lands and why it is being carried out across the country. Of course, one of the major projects that the government is currently instituting. Also on the roads that the administration has built since it took over power back in 2022. Also the president yesterday announcing that over 28,000 kilometers more will be built across the country. Of course, just talking about and drumming up support for the key roads that are being built currently, the Rironi Mau Summit, also the Isiolo Mandera Road, the 750 kilometer road that is currently ongoing. Also talking about the issues of the SHA, the Social Health Authority, with the president clearly stating that the figures of people who are enrolling into SHA keep on rising, with over 30 million Kenyans currently under that particular arrangement. Also, we have gotten the opportunity this morning to speak to some of the legislators. Right now, we can confirm to you they're checking out. They're heading to Parliament, given that they have an afternoon session at exactly 2:30 p.m. Also, on the executive side, they need to prepare for tomorrow. You do know what is happening tomorrow, the August 12th convention, where the president announced a few days ago, and yesterday he spoke about it, where he clearly stated that the broad-based coalition will be fully participating in those discussions with the president, clearly stating it will be a people-centered national development charter that they will be conversing around. This, of course, will be a historic moment for the country, given that in 2008, when the 2030 vision was launched by President Mwai Kibaki, the late President Mwai Kibaki, even before we had a constitution, that is the 2010 constitution, with the president announcing that this charter will be of course, will be formed under the 2010 Constitution, complementing the developmental instructions and directions that the Constitution is giving to ensure that it has a constitutional backing at the end of the day. With leaders contributing to the conversation, President announced yesterday the formation of how they'll be collecting those views from the public. You do remember it could be similar to what we've been witnessing the administration has been doing with the Nyota program, when the President was speaking to the various county representation from the people to the leaders. It could take a similar trajectory tomorrow, but the leaders who are currently checking out of this particular place, they are focusing on tomorrow, as well as the afternoon session, which will start exactly at 2:30 p.m. Right now they're checking out. We've even witnessed Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome, a number of legislators, given that this was a whole government approach, both from the executive, the luminaries of both ODM and UDA. It's something they have been conversing around. As and when, of course, we get more details, we'll be coming back to you. So back to you, Troy.
That has been Abdiaziz Hashim live from Naivasha, where the broad-based PG has been taking place, and they're just checking out. And a number of things that were spoken about yesterday. We did hear the president talk about joint manifesto. We did hear about his economic transformation, just as Abdi has mentioned, and also we also did see Treasury Cabinet Secretary Mbadi talk about our debt and our economy and how things are. But at the end of the day, they also spoke about going to the 2027 general election together as equal partners. But just like we are trying to figure out here, is that they already have kicked off the long journey to 2027, but a number of things have to be ironed out, because you do remember that Kenya Kwanza is also a coalition, and ODM is a party that is joining that coalition. Perhaps to just empty up what you were talking about in regards to this ODM and Kenya Kwanza, because ODM had already, from what we've had, a number of ODM, even members of parliament, senators, and even governors have talked about what they want. They haven't preempted everything, but they have singled out the deputy president position.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Taking up from where we left off, yes, I mentioned that these are discussions, these are negotiations. It's there'll be a matter of a give and take on on the side of all stakeholders, not just ODM and UDA. There'll be other stakeholders who will have to be involved in the conversation, because we do know that, as we mentioned earlier, no single party or no duo in terms of parties can go into the elections alone and hope to win. There must be coalitions, and they must involve other stakeholders as well. Then I also mentioned, and which is very important, that one of the things that makes this particular President Ruto, trustworthy is the fact that he has kept his pre-election pacts, unlike his predecessors. And I was actually talking about, I was going back into history, talking about people like Mwai Kibaki, who reneged on the famous MOU pact that he had within the Rainbow Coalition as soon as he was sworn in. And it ended up bringing chaos. Then we've seen the pact that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta had with William Ruto to do 10 and to give his support to William Ruto for another 10. The pact was broken, I think, after 2017, and it resulted in a lot of animus between the two of them. But William Ruto went into the elections of 2022 with a number of pacts with a number of people, and he kept every one of those pacts. I mean, when you look at the Speaker of the National Assembly, when you look at the Speaker of Senate, These are people who had supported him in exchange for the sinecures that they occupy at the moment. When you look at even cabinet secretaries like Aisha Jumwa, people didn't understand why the president gave a cabinet position, but it was in keeping with a pre-election pact that he had for her support. So across the board, he's kept his pre-election pacts, and it is quite evident that those who come to him now are coming with the same measure, with the same trust, with the same belief that any pact that they get into now, once they agree on the nitty-gritties, once the details are agreed upon, going into the elections of 2027, the president will keep his word should he win.
Picking from where Leo has left in regards to pact, we know very well many are broken. We have vehicles that we use, to go to the elections, and later on, we hear Mwamba is not speaking to Njue. We've talked about 30%. We talked about this. How can the two parties, that's the broad parties, that is a UDA and ODM, ensure that they do not run into the headwinds that we have seen when forming these political pacts?
Thank you once again. You've heard the reporter from Naivasha has actually mentioned a very critical item. I think that was I was so keen on that.
Yes.
Where he was trying to mention as a concern that was brought by the parties on the changes of leadership. Once they take over the office in 2027, you see, when you put conditions on the changes of those particular, because appointments are there, but then how, if they're not performing, what happens? Or if they're performing and you feel like now they are going off from the ideologies that you had, what happens? Do you just kick them out because you've taken a position as the president, like you are now in control? So that is one of the areas that must be watertight, such that if you have to change, a leader from the position, then there must be a board conversation. Like the parties must sit down and agree that these are the genuine reasons why such a leader is being removed from the seat where they are. And the danger of that again is that in case, I think I wanted to refer to what my brother was talking about, that the president is known, probably known by the people.
Yes.
However, the support from the other regions, are they going to be selected, or are they going to be elected by the people? Because these are the people who are going to now serve Kenyans. Now, if they don't perform and we have a watertight tool that will not allow the president to change, then what happens? Are Kenyans going to suffer out of that? That needs to be looked at. I know there are experts in terms of leadership engagements, and that needs to be looked at, and we find a seamless way of dealing with those who are non-performing when they're appointed into government. Because that is where now we've found many Kenyans suffering and many ministries failing to offer service to Kenyans because of poor leadership and poor wrong people being put there, and they stay for a year is too long for government to have a wrong person in a particular segment or in a particular ministry. So looking at it in that manner, I think that is a key area that needs to be looked at in as much as there is distribution of leadership and power, but that needs to be looked into on how to operationalize that particular aspect.
Doc, from what we had yesterday, a joint manifesto, could this be the silver bullet going to 2027 election?
That could be, that's possible. But there's one thing that we need to understand. Manifestos and coalition agreements are done in the boardrooms. They are never political statements. And that's what do I mean? I mean, some political parties' funds could talk about what they desire or what they want. Like, for example, ODM can say we want the deputy president post slot.
Yes.
That's political statement. That is not a coalition agreement. Why? There are implications on every move. You know, every move you make, it has its own implication in the political arena. And I always tell people, politics is a game of chess. So you move, every step you move, you must know the consequences. And at times, happens when you want to kill your move. in order for you to get a space to attack the main culprit. If that is the things they will likely to do at one point in time when we are getting closer to the election, and when all other interested parties who wants to join the coalition, who will be pulled to the coalition, will be on board, then we can say this particular time we can make this particular decision that will have influence on this. But by the time my friend Professor Kindiki will be told you will not be the deputy president, then Professor Kindiki comes from a region which is very fragile, a region that has been pronounced loudly as the mountain. And the mountain has been splitted by my friend Roku, who, according to him, he has splitted the mountain. And the purpose of him splitting the mountain is to make sure that he keeps his arena solid. And the arena he's keeping solid is Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president. Therefore, I don't think if that is politically viable for the president. But again, you can always talk about your interest. You can always talk about what you want. But solidly, decisions will be made in the boardroom with a proper thoughts, where we know every politician, the move he makes, will be addressing the implication or the consequences that are likely to arise. And therefore, I think that we need to understand. But when we look at what is going on, it is the beginning, I get back to your question, it is the beginning of having a solid coalition as time goes on. Why? There will be back and forth. There will be discussions. There will be disagreement. There will be splitting. And when it comes to that particular issue, when someone talks about, for example, let's just talk about ODM. There are people who people want, but they are currently not visible. You can't hear their voice because they are not in position of power where they can express their concern. The intelligence of this country will going to confirm who the people want, and ODM is likely to pull those people on board in order for them to achieve the target they want, to be re-elected in the system and to be useful to the president. So the current dispensation of much of the agreements will be skeleton. The real coalition, signing of those coalitions and manifestos and agreements that parties will going to have will come the last minute when the lineups are set. And therefore, I tend to think at the moment is preliminary, and it is in order for them to have such a discussion, because some of the discussions you initiate will also open up your mind in terms of telling you what people think about what you are driving. And the moment you understand that, you'll be in a position to shape it towards the interest of the people. Don't forget, political parties and the elections solely lies with the people on the ground.
All right.
And particularly, I don't think if the president should rely on mainly a lot, I don't think if politically he will rely mainly a lot on a governor, a senator, or a women rep. The people who decide who should be elected, both even including those quotas and the presidency, are the members of county assemblies and they are members of parliament for that constituency. Those are the ones at the grassroots level and at the constituency level that will solidly decide who becomes the leader of this country. And therefore, I don't think if the president will waste a lot of time on the governors or the high flyers of the current leadership, who they have lost grip of the ground and they are just enjoying themselves up here, which is okay. It is their time, they can enjoy. Okay. But I'm sure many Kenyans, including myself, our time is likely to come once we get to 2027. We may not enjoy the way they are doing it. We may enjoy with the ground.
All right. We are waiting. It's a wait-and-see game in regards to the Kenya Kwanza ODM coalition. But as I mentioned earlier on, we also looking at what the president said. At the end of July, the president in a state address did mention that we are now looking beyond the Vision 2030. We are now looking at Vision 2060. But you know, we are building from Vision 2030. Allow me to just point out 5 hits and 5 misses of the Vision 2030. Remember, Vision 2030 was inaugurated about 20 years ago, and pundits and even the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat argued that we are about 65%. And this is why, let's first of all look at the major achievements. The political pillar milestone, that is the realization of the 2010 Constitution. That was one of the issues that was supposed to be sorted out or ironed out by the Vision 2030, and also biggest success under the political framework, expanding civil liberties and introducing devolution. Work in progress. Very quickly, the second one, infrastructure modernization. That has been, we are looking at SGR, Nairobi Expressway. We are also looking at the expansion of the Mombasa Port and also the Lapsset Corridor. Of course, there was also the modernization of the JKIA. We have an expert here who will be telling us more in regards to that. Technological and financial inclusion. We do remember, of course, now we have the Silicon Savannah. We have Konza Technopolis. We have M-Pesa has really penetrated in regards to that because it was one of the targeted blueprints. The energy grid expansion, geothermal and renewable energy development grew massively. We are looking at success rates. We have seen the government each and every month talking about rural electrification. We are tapping into wind. We are also tapping into geothermal and hydroelectric power. And then we have institutional alignment. Prior to 2008, the government ministry operated in, let's say, like silos. But now we have been able to successfully and in successful administration and counties a plan in a single national direction. And I think the president did mention yesterday in regards to the one account, the one government account. Let's look at some of the misses. The 10% growth illusion. The essence of the 2030 vision was that the economy had to grow at about a rate of about 10% so that we may achieve Vision 2030. But that we have never achieved. Instead, the economy has expanded roughly at the rate of between 5-6%, but in 2021 it was about 7.6. Then we have industrialization, manufacturing that was geared towards ensuring that we have aligned everything and so that be a percentage of our GDP rather than just growing. We are heavily dependent on imports. The gentleman here will tell us. Then the heavy debt trap. We are looking at 12 points. Is 12 point, gentlemen? Maybe 12 point or 13?
Yes, 13.
We are hovering about there. And that is something that really needs to have a discussion in regards to that. Agriculture. Agriculture was one of the anchor sectors intended to grow beyond the 5% per annum. But productivity has not quite gotten to there yet, and we'll commend the government in regards to the subsidized fertilizer. And of course, the climate shock is something that we are also looking at. Then the last one I'm looking at is social sector strain. We are high youth unemployment, and this was exacerbated. You do remember when the Gen Z protested, and after that they said we need a lean government, we need to create more opportunities for our youth, and also we need to keep the cost of living down. Gentlemen, was just an overview of the Vision 2030. We do not know what the President blueprint in regards to the Vision 2060 is. And I will begin with you, Leo. One of the things that are going to be really looked into is, just like in Vision 2030, is massive infrastructure modernization. We have seen the SGR, we have seen the expressway, we've seen the Thika superhighway. Those all more or less were part of the Vision 2030. We had an opportunity to also expand our airports. We ran into Adani and the deal collapsed. There are expansions. We had plans to expand our fleets, also expand our coverage in regards to our airports. Where are we on this? And basing on what we have seen in Vision 2030, because we are still deeply entrenched in Vision 2030, how are you moving into Vision 2060 in regards to that? Infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. You raise very valid points. A lot of times, I think focus is given on when we talk about infrastructure. Has been put, inordinate focus has been put on the SGR, on the road infrastructure, and very little attention has been given to the expansion of our premier gateway, that is the airport, Jomo Kenyatta. International Airport. Very little focus has also been given to the expansion of the hub carrier, which is Kenya Airways. Yet these two institutions are as critical as our road infrastructure. They are as critical as our rail infrastructure. Without them, you cannot advance your economic agenda. You cannot attain that growth rate of 10% that is so desirable, that was desirable under Vision 2030, and I'm sure we'll obtain even under Vision 2060. These are the misses. I think in the last dispensation, expansion of the airport infrastructure was key. And we started off, I think, around 2013, thereabouts, with a contract being awarded to a company that was subsequently cancelled under a cloud of circumstances, under a dark cloud. We don't know why it was cancelled. Then this administration then decided to take up the same airport expansion. This is because Jomo Kenyatta now is bursting at the seams. It's our premier gateway. It was built in 1978 to handle 2 million passengers. It's currently handling about 8 million passengers. So it is bursting at the seams. It cannot take on more. Yet our passengers coming in through that gateway keep growing, I think at the rate of more than 4% every year. So something has to be done. So the Adani was a first attempt. And because of a lot of controversy, especially due to the fact that Adani had been indicted in the US, the project had to be shelved on account of the public outcry that was there. And in my view, that outcry was largely driven by toxic politics. Now we have another project that is, I think a contract has now been awarded to, I think, a Chinese company now to expand the same airport. To do it in two phases. The first one is basically to expand the existing facilities so that they can take up an additional 4 million passengers to bring the total number to about 12 million passengers. Then, thereafter, a terminal is going to be put up, a brand new terminal, and a second runway and proper taxiways and that sort of thing are going to be put up in the second phase of this project to bring the total number of passengers that the airport can take in per annum to about 22 million passengers.
Is it really tenable?
Yes,
22 million?
22 million is
JKIA?
absolutely tenable. But what you do, you actually, you know, when you're planning airport infrastructure, you don't plan for the here and now. You plan for the future. You plan it long term. You plan it for about 10, 20, 25 years to come. You do your projections and you know that within this number of years, this is the capacity that we will have obtained by then. So that's why we plan for 22 million passengers, and we are growing. Ethiopia, just next door, who are more or less like us a few years ago, are now building a brand new facility. And guess what? They are planning for 100 million passengers. So 22 million passengers is really a drop in the ocean. It's really something we ought to have done 10 years ago. Now, talking about the fleet, we have Kenya Airways, a fleet. And yes, it is a national carrier. Yes, it is private. It's a privately owned, with the government being the largest shareholder. It's not government owned. It's just privately owned, but the government is a shareholder at 48.9% shareholding. But Kenya Airways is a critical national asset, and it has to be supported to grow. Like other flagship carriers, like other flag carriers in other jurisdictions, it is impossible for a carrier of that sort to operate without support from the government. It has to get support. Every successful national carrier, every successful legacy carrier all over the world, especially post-COVID, has had to succeed only by getting support from their governments. And I've given examples in the past of Emirates that got $4 billion post-COVID to survive. I've given examples of US carriers that had a total stipend of about $56 billion just to survive post-COVID. And Kenya Airways now needs about $2 billion basically to get it to where it needs to go. I am happy that this government, this administration, has seen the importance of supporting Kenya Airways. And they have taken one crucial step. Yes, there's one crucial step that they've taken. I think I saw it announced a couple of weeks ago that they are going to take up the legacy debt that has held Kenya Airways back for quite a number of years. The government is going to take it off take it off the balance sheet, figure out how of sorting it out, so that Kenya Airways now can recapitalize, can get the $2 billion that it needs from possibly from other investors, so that it can be facilitated to grow. And the reason why it is important to support Kenya Airways at this critical time is you cannot have a great infrastructure like the brand new airport that is being proposed without a hub carrier. Yeah, those two have to grow in tandem. There's no point of building infrastructure without an airline that can bring in the numbers that you need to support that infrastructure. Okay. So those two have to grow in tandem.
Still on infrastructure, and it's a good thing that Kafafa has really expanded in regards to that, because we really need to modernize that, and that is something that ended up in Parliament. If you remember when the President said it had cancelled, the government had cancelled the Adani deal. Of course, there were a lot of cheers. In as much as we need infrastructure, we need to follow the rule of law, and also we don't have to have questionable characters. We have seen Konza, Tatu City, and also the extension of roads and infrastructure, as we've seen markets. I would like you to point out some of the things that needs to give and some of the things that we need to do post-2030 vision, so that we may align with the 2060 vision. We do expect the President to speak a lot in regards to infrastructure, and you're also an expert on that as well.
Thank you, Troy. I think most people have never understood the word infrastructure and how we look at it. From the economic perspective, you will talk about an infrastructure as I think my brother Louis has mentioned about the returns in terms of numbers, throughput.
Yes.
But look at it this way. Now, how do we sustain that after the construction? Do we have, what are the legal instruments that enable the country and the taxpayers' money be used with a lot of, without losing it, where we are losing public money to foreign countries. These things are very critical, and I think that is one of the areas that brought Adani down, in addition to, their integrity outside of the country. Now, the other thing that we also need to look at is that have we considered, I know the improvement of the JKIA is one of the critical, improvement that we are going to have.
Yes.
But have we considered our competitors across? We have Ethiopia, which is performing better than us as we stand today. Tanzania is actually on the right path. Actually, most of the traffic, goes to Tanzania currently. I think it's because of the status of the JKIA right now. Now, with all this put together, we need to look at our regional competitiveness, so that when we make such decisions, then they will be able to succeed by 2060. And now that I want to link that now to what you are asking me about, the digital the digital, metropole that is coming up. Then we have the road networks, the port of Mombasa. These are things that also needs to be put together, because they facilitate the growth of the economy. If you look at the Vision 2060, you will see manufacturing as industrialization as a key element that has been mentioned. But what supports industrialization, it's all about the infrastructure that you put into place. The government is an enabler of those who are coming to invest. Once you open up the roads, you open up facilities that support industrialization, then the investors can be able to come in. So once that is done, then we are going to have it in the best interest of the country. And the major concern, again, are on issues dealing with the connectivity between the country and, the country as a whole. We have from north to south and across to the western side of the country. We are talking about a railway line that has been proposed also to be constructed. Now, what is the value? Is it going to be passenger or is it going to be cargo? So that is the only attraction that would be there towards investing in that particular sector. The other one that we talked about is this Mau Summit Road. You know, we are talking about the kind of traffic that will be going to Western Kenya and the Central and Rift Valley.
Yep.
The question we are asking, it's a toll road, which nobody's talking about. And Kenyans are going to pay to use that particular infrastructure. The government needs to come up with alternative routes, you know, as one of the to promote movement still, where those who are unable to pay, because most Kenyans are still living below some standard, they need to have alternative routes where they can be able to use, so that they don't just depend on this particular, gateway or path that takes them to the other section. And these facilities that support, you know, the main highway that is being constructed must be done in the right quality, because that is another thing that we have also experienced. We are having, like this one, the link road that was done between Nairobi and Suswa towards, that is the southern part of Western. That road collapsed once, I think, in less than a year or so. So you realize that the vision is good, and it has a lot of input that needs to be, to be looked into by the experts. But the implementation, that is where I keep going back to. The implementation sometimes leads to loss of public funds, where it's implemented but not to the standards that are required. So a lot of structures need to be put into place to ensure that the implementation, whether it's a hub that we are talking about, like digital hub, it is the ports where we have the gateways, must be done in the right way. And this will help us to resolve things to do with unemployment. I think that was one of the, under the social pillar, we are talking about unemployment and jobs that dignify, humanity. These are things that needs also to come with it. That now it has been issued to a national, it's called the Chinese contractor to carry out both probably design and the implementation. What is the role of the Kenyan people in the construction? Are we getting this money, and again we are expatriate? We are pushing back to the foreign countries.
Yes.
What are we doing in this? Because economy can only grow when there is money in circulation, and we allow that money to circulate. The minimum requirement is 40% as per the law, but can we push this so that we have it at probably 50% or 60%?
Yes.
So that we control the bigger percentage of this investment in our country. And by that, you'll ensure that the economy that we are talking about, 2060 vision talks about 6.7 this time it has given a range, which is a good thing.
Yes.
It was 10%, but now it has given between 7 and 10. It can only grow by those digits when we allow money to circulate within the country, whether from our local banking sector or a financial institution, or from the global aspects where money has been borrowed into this country. We must allow a bigger portion of that money to circulate within the country to allow that economy to grow. Otherwise, we will be having the same cycle of challenges that we are experiencing before, that the economy can only grow by less than the minimum required, 5%. The next year it goes to 4%. So that stability may not be there. So when we look at infrastructure, this is the key and the fundamental sector that needs to be, be considered to ensure that the vision is achieved within the period that it has been defined. Because we say development always follows, growth always follows development. But in Kenya, it's the other way. You people get into a particular region, they stay there, then the infrastructure follows. It should be the other way for growth to happen. So government should prioritize expanding these facilities into the unentered areas, then that triggers development and growth in terms of the economy and also in terms of population. And I think that is the only way they can be able to get back, the returns. Yeah,
Doc, you're a politician as well as a governance expert, and the president didn't announce this. He will be announcing it tomorrow at the KICC. just a day after they announced a pact with ODM, and people are reading politics into this. They're talking about, they're mixing it with the politics. You do remember Vision 2030, we didn't mix it with politics, but when it comes to 2060, we've had people talk about more or less is matters of re-election. I would like you to pick your mind in regards to that.
Yes, also a doctor.
Yes, and also a doctor.
Yeah, thank you
can also touch on health as well.
There's one thing that I always want to talk about when we are talking about Vision 2030. My brothers, you know, they are living in a very well-established setup, particularly when it comes to development, road network, water infrastructure, education, and quite a number of things.
Yes.
You remember when grade 11 or grade 10 was being admitted to schools, specific schools, some of the political quarters said Northern Kenyans are bringing their children here to learn. It is true, we bring our children to learn,
yes,
because we are not at par with the development of this country. We are still at basic level. For example, we are lacking basic infrastructure. We are lacking water, which is a life-saving thing. We are still struggling with crippled health services, where we still have maternal child deaths. Even of recent, we had a mother who has passed on in Mandera, in Takaba, just because there was no anesthetic drugs. And the doctor could not operate on that mama and her baby, and the mother and the child, we lost both of them. So when our elites talk about issues related to airport expansions, major infrastructures like railways, we talk about basic things in life. And that is where politics does not play the role of development. And we need to demarcate separately, completely from politics as well as development plans for this country. Vision 2030 achieved significant number of issues in regards to infrastructure and connectivity, you know, education. We know the CBC and other expansions on secondary school education. Of course, issues related to TVET. The health, you know, this devolved government where health has been taken closer to the communities, where the health facilities are manned by county government.
Yes.
Though that is not something to celebrate because they couldn't manage the health facilities the way it is expected. I mean, the services have been taken down there. This was anchored on a plan that was made when people were in a very good sober mind, when they developed the Vision 2030 in 2008, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And however, all these expansions that has happened had its own weaknesses. For example, does the level of expansion of networks or infrastructure translate to industrialization? Does it translate to employment? Does it translate to improving the livelihood of a common Kenyan? So before we look at this major infrastructure, what are we supposed to do? The what is called the what is called Sustainable Development Goals, 17 SDGs goals comes to play. And some of the basic of things is just, instead of having a major airports where only a quarter, less than a quarter of this population are likely to benefit or use, regardless of whether the government gets return out of it, we will have expanded on a major dam that will create irrigation systems and people will be able to produce their own food. We are the only country who are proud of saying we are doing very well in agricultural production. And yet, every meal we consume, every food we eat, largely 80% of that food is imported. We are talking about farming, livestock and chicken and other animals. We are getting chicken from Chinese. We don't know how they are produced actually. They might be manufactured, not animals, the way animals grow. And therefore, the consequences of having such products from Brazil, China, and these other places is because you don't know that production, whether it has gone through the right channel. Maybe there's a lot of chemical and GMOs, and that's why we are battling with cancer cases in this country now. They have become too much. And therefore, Are we looking at infrastructures that will going to impress the elites of this country, or we look at infrastructures that will enhance the livelihood and cost of living for the people who are the majority in this country? This is the things that I want to express in. Coming to your point, with a very brief touch on that, very is quick. That politics in the government structure or how government operates, ideally, I have repeatedly told many people that government do not operate on political platforms. Government operates on what is called a master plan and master budget for government projects. Now, in this plan, this used to be managed by a non-political wing of the government who was the head of the civil service. The accounting officer of every ministry, the principal secretaries, are they now the key determinants of government development agenda? No. This has been taken over by politicians. And therefore, why we are not able to achieve what we want is because politicians now will want to do things and things in favor of their own political mileage. And that's why you see, we talk about every government. You see, every president comes. He wants to come and do his own agenda. But it doesn't operate like that. We left having government agenda in 2013 when the devolution government began. And every government, county government, the county governor will want to show that he's doing development. He has no plan and clue of even what development, government development is all about. Presidency, the presidents will want to show what they have done. They will even go a mile, leaving projects that was spent on taxpayers' money and left outside. There are a lot of white elephant projects that has been left behind by previous governments. And now you want to start your own. Government does not operate that. Mine is to make sure that if we must move forward to Vision 2060, then, or 63, or whatever it is called, then the agenda should revolve around who is responsible for ensuring that Vision 2060 is realized without political interference and without political likely to cause confusion in the development agenda in this country.
All right, gentlemen, because of the interest of time, we do expect, nobody knows what the President will be talking about tomorrow for the 2060 vision, but based on what we've had, I've pointed out the hits and misses of Vision 2030, based on Vision 30, headed towards 2060, and a number of things have changed, including technology. Leo, I would want to ask, what are some of the issues that the head of state should prioritize, or some of the sectors that the head of state should prioritize as we head towards 2030 first?
As we head towards 2030 or towards 2060?
Yes, so that we may build up on that.
I think a lot has been covered in terms of the Vision 2030. Of course, the missed opportunities, as you rightly pointed out, were the growth rate. The annual growth rate, which ought to have been at 10% of GDP. It's not too late. We can still tweak up that growth rate. One of the easiest ways is, of course, to develop our aviation infrastructure, as I've said. And just to correct Dr. Hassan, airport infrastructure, the aviation infrastructure is not elitist. It has never been elitist. It benefits every citizen. In the bellies of the cargoes of Kenya Airways planes, aircraft, chilled meat from Northeastern is carried in those bellies to the markets of the Middle East. It benefits its people. In the bellies of those aircraft, those Kenya Airways aircraft, that is, we have vegetables, fresh fruit and veggies, fresh produce basically. Meaning Mama Mboga, everyone, Mama Mboga is growing her vegetables in Limuru, Kinangop and wherever, benefits because this is stuff that is carried in the bellies of those aircraft to the Middle East and to the markets of the EU. Aviation contributes about 6% of this country's GDP and growing. If we focus on it, it can contribute close to 15 to 20% of our GDP. It can enhance the growth of that GDP by that factor. So that's a low-hanging fruit that we ought to be focusing on.
All right.
Yeah, and then, of course, indebtedness. You mentioned we are heavily indebted. This administration is really trying to do a lot to to ensure that we do not get into debt distress and into debt default.
Okay.
They've done what is called, of course, debt liability management, amongst many things.
Yeah. Engineer, what do you think the president should prioritize tomorrow?
Troy, I think there's so much probably that I wanted to
in a
nutshell.
Yes.
I'll look at what the question that you've asked. One, the issue of misalignment and services not getting to the people is just the disconnect between the county governments and the national government.
Okay.
Yeah, based on prior to the 2010 constitution, it was about the national government. So what is running currently is that the national government has been doing some other functions within the counties. And what is expected is that the county government should align with Vision 2060 so that the achievements that are expected of the vision can also be implemented at the county level so that the citizens can be able to understand and also get the benefit of this vision.
Yes.
Most of our governors are not actually doing this, and that's why they have their own interest. Projects are done based on the interest, and therefore members of the county cannot benefit on that. I'm looking at the commitment from the government based on your question. I'm looking at the president to commit towards this vision and to ensure that when he comes out, it should be able to come out strongly on the implementation of this particular vision, so that in the middle term, we have our people who are suffering, and in terms of unemployment, in terms of healthcare, we find, the SHA in some counties, actually in some sub-counties, it is not working. It is true. It's working in some of the areas, but there are those who are suffering and still paying in those counties. We have schools, primary schools without, electricity and all this. We need the government to do this in the middle term so that we can be able to achieve, some of the basics by 2030. Then as we roll into the 2060, then that commitment should be there, a clear commitment on that vision in terms of the implementation and policies that should be put into place when Brother Louis talks about, the throughput that goes through the airports. Yeah. My question has always been, where is the source of the throughput? If it is meat, is it meat from Kenya? If it is flour,
yes,
is it flour from Naivasha? Or there is an import that comes into this country, repackaged, then it goes out. That happens a lot, and we know if we don't have proper policies, this vision will just benefit a few, and the Kenyans will not benefit out of it.
Well said, well said. That has been engineered. Unfortunately,
before we leave, I think I need to say one thing.
Really?
That Vision 2060, we need to rethink. Instead of doing multiple issues, let's do the basic things that changes the life of Kenyans.
All right.
That is what is very crucial for us. And we expect the president to talk about how we will harvest water in order for us to produce our own food.
All right.
This is the thing, how industrialization will be enhanced in order for our young people to get employed.
Very well.
All other things, those are side shows.
All right, all right. Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert and also a politician. Just next to him, we have Engineer Jackton Mwembe, who is an engineer, is also a governance expert, and we have a public policy analyst in Leo Kafafa and aviation expert as well. We have been more or less preempting President William Ruto's speech tomorrow, that is on the Vision 2060, but we have built on the Vision 2030 that, yes, has had its hits and also have had its misses. We now take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about matters epilepsy. Thank you so much indeed for joining this first hour.
Ni kila Ijumaa kutokea saa 1:30 mpaka saa 4 kamili. Inakuwa ni burudani kiukamilifu ya Afrika Mashariki.
Tunakupatia umbea kwa segment inaitwa The Big Story. Tunachanua what's happening in social media. Msanii amefanya nini na nani.
Kando na mziki mzuri wa Afrika Mashariki, The Big Story pia anawaletea mastaa tofauti ndani ya studio. Kutoka Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, yani ukanda mzima wa Afrika Mashariki.
Nakumbuka pia unaweza interact na sisi kwenye mitandao, yani social media platforms, that is Facebook, Instagram, X na hashtag ni ile tu, #WaMasharikiLive.
Tunakupa mix kali kutoka kwa DJ Kuch, muziki ya kizazi kipya iliyotamba inazidi kutamba na ambayo tunaitambaliza zaidi.
Exactly, and as always msisahau, lazima tuwapatie burudani yenye vitamin extra.
Tunatambulika kwa mandhari yetu ya kuvutia,
tamaduni zetu, ukarimu wetu, vyakula vyetu, uchapakazi,
na pia kwa sauti tofauti za watangazaji wetu waliobobea.
Libengo niko hapa aka upcoming sponsor. Bila shaka hapa ni kama ya PDG, ma deep state pia vile cartels.
tunaenzi talanta za pwani, tunakuza talanta za hapa kwetu nyumbani.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tuko mjengoni kama kawa na wanangu wengine wawili.
Kose kutegea 103.1 Pwani FM, station ambayo itakupa fursa ya kupata uhondo kamili wa pwani na kuleta Wakenya pamoja.
Pwani FM, tafrija ya kipwani.
They say magic is a myth, but they haven't been looking in the right places. From the heartbeat of the city to the soul of our culture. Taste the magic in every bite, from authentic flavors to unforgettable experiences. Journey into the wild, where nature is older than time. Discover places you've never imagined and wonders waiting to be found. This is not just travel. This is not just. This is magical scenes. See Kenya. Feel the magic.
Lights on, volume up. This is where stories come alive. From local drama that hits close to home.
Huyu ni nani? Alinivamia akiwa na vijana wengine wawili. Toka nje. Hii nyumba yako. Yote ni porojo.
To international series everyone's talking about. Stories that pull you in. Characters you won't forget.
Stop complaining and just get out of here. Go now, go.
We turn up the volume with music that moves, showcases rising stars, and bring the beat straight to your living room. And when it's time to talk, we don't hold back.
How is everything going?
Real conversations, big personalities, the issues, the loves, the moment everyone's debating the next day. Every show, every night, different voices, one destination. This is television that feels alive, unpredictable, and missable.
I don't understand women. 1 minute you're all nice and cuddly. The next minute you don't want it. What exactly do you want, woman?
Marvin is actually very supportive.
Oh, really? Do you go to church?
Are you saying that I'm a weapon fashioned against you?
You tell me.
It suits you.
No, this side of you scares me.
No, don't be scared. I can be nice.
That's easy, Marvin.
Okay, Yasin, please calm down. Calm down.
How do you expect me to calm down, Marvin?
Yasin, calm down so that we get to know exactly what happened.
Yasin.
Hey, Yasin.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome back to KBC News Check. On this second hour, we'll be looking at matters epilepsy, and to be specific, we'll be looking at how we can improve epilepsy awareness and access to care in Africa. Because to be very honest, we are staring at a crisis, invincible crisis that is within us, within millions of homes in Kenya. But one of the reasons is because epilepsy still is being treated as matters witchcraft, or something that has been done to your kid or to a family member. That is what we want to demystify. And how do we improve access to epilepsy care, and especially when it comes to, now we are talking about Vision 2060, not even 2030. This is what we will be looking at on the second hour. And because of the interest of time, allow me to rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left, where we have Dr. Phyllis Kimani. Dr. Kimani is a leading pharmacist, passionate epilepsy advocate, and a powerhouse behind NeuroReach Africa, dedicating her career to drug access and also public awareness. That is why we are having this conversation. Just next to her, we have Nicholas Otieno, an expert clinical epileptologist from the Kenya Association for the Welfare of People with Epilepsy, or KAWE, and also matters diagnosis, treating, and building community-level systems. Karibuni. Perhaps to start with you, Daktari, growing up, before I understood this, and I also had my time in the medical field, epilepsy is still being taken as something happened, or maybe uchawi, some witchcraft or something.
Yeah.
Could we try and demystify this?
Yes, thank you very much for having us.
Welcome.
This is a conversation that is well overdue. Mm-hmm. The reason is, as you're saying rightly, growing up, we have grown up knowing that epilepsy is this condition to be feared. It has a lot of stigma, and these stories started when we were very young. So there were theories about it's contagious, it's witchcraft, it's a mental illness, and these are things that we inherited from our churches, from our communities, and the only way to change this narrative is to go back to right from the start, right from the children. Let's teach them a new narrative about the condition. Because as you're saying, all these are myths. And the truth is, epilepsy is a medical condition of the brain, and it is treatable. So there's a lot that needs to be done with regards to the right information getting to everyone at large.
Yeah. Nick, building from where Doc has left in regards to even, diagnosis. Maybe in Nairobi and big towns, maybe we have a number of medical experts in the field, but let's look at rural Kenya. How bad is the situation in regards to not only awareness, the treatment as well?
Yeah, basically there's a challenge from the awareness aspect. People are not aware of epilepsy as a medical condition. The second part is that even the medical team are not well equipped on how to diagnose epilepsy. When you mention about epilepsy anywhere right now, what will come to someone's mind is a consultant. And the consultants in rural areas are hard to come by.
Yep.
So the first thing will be, where is the transport to where this consultant is? The second question will be, where is the consultation fee for this? So basically we are looking at making sure that epilepsy is managed at the primary healthcare level, so that even in the rural areas people can access the epilepsy management as they require, because it's their right. This belief that you can only manage epilepsy on other levels is making it difficult for even people at the rural areas to access medication and treatment.
Yeah. Yeah. Doc, you started NeuroReach Africa.
Yes.
What exactly are you doing in matters awareness? And just like Otieno has pointed out, when it comes to rural areas, awareness and treatment becomes the biggest issue.
Yeah. So NeuroReach is a non-profit organization, and we look to improve the lives of families affected by epilepsy, and we do this through three things. The first is research. So we are advancing research into epilepsy, including more novel treatment options. So these are for the epilepsies that are more difficult to treat. We're doing a lot in innovation. So we're looking at digital solutions that are in the reach of Kenyans, regardless of where you live. So we're looking at, for instance, on our mobile phones, there's a lot that we can do because Kenya has a mobile phone penetration of about 125%. So a lot of people have phones in their pockets. So we're trying to develop tools that can help these families via their mobile phones. And finally, through community impact. So we have written what is called the NeuroRich Friends series, and these are books that are targeted to children from as young as 4 years old up to 10 years, because that is where we have realized stigma begins. So why not target it before it actually starts? So very simple storytelling, we are able to demystify this illness and break the thousands of years of misinformation that we have through telling stories.
Of course, we will be looking at the books as well, and
Yes.
you'll be telling us what exactly necessitated you to do this, because I believe this is one of the best things that you can do in regards to a condition that is not well understood in the country. Nick, I'm looking at how we can bridge the massive shortage of specialists and also caregivers. In as much as we would want many Kenyans to study maybe anything, any medical field that touches on epilepsy and its care, how can we train the ordinary clinical officers? And also we have the CHPs now. Is there a way that we can maybe train them to maybe not only demystify the condition, but also be able to help, especially they are able to get deep inside the rural areas?
Yes, so basically as KAWE, we have our model of how we approach the community on epilepsy management. We do community awareness sessions where we talk to the community members on what epilepsy is, and we demystify the myths and the misconceptions. In these sittings, we have the leaders within the community, the gatekeepers basically, the Nyumba Kumi initiative, the chiefs. They are all put in a set. We have a conversation about what they believe epilepsy is. Then we guide them on the truth about epilepsy. Then from there, we have training sessions for community health workers. We do it county per county. We have community health workers are brought. They are trained on how to identify persons with epilepsy within the community, and they channel them to the health facilities. So we have a set of training sessions that we do to community health promoters. Then we have what we call the continuous medical education for primary health care providers within a county that we go to. So after doing that CME, they are trained. After being trained on how to manage epilepsy, the trainings also give them CPD points for renewal of their licenses. So it gives them something to look forward to when they are attending these trainings, and they are also equipped to manage the epilepsy condition within the facilities they are in, so that we reduce the accessibility challenge that we are having at the moment. So we have that program on how we train them and we create awareness.
Doc, back to the basics, the diagnosis and treatment. There's a parent who do not know, watching us out there, who doesn't know how to diagnose and where to seek help. How can you help them?
So for this answer, I will answer both as a pharmacist and as a caregiver, because I have been that parent. And I want to say, when it comes to things like seizures, the first time it happens, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of not knowing. But what I'd say is, if your child experiences a convulsion, head out to your nearest health facility. As my colleague has mentioned, down to the basic levels, those facilities will be able to refer you if necessary. So it's not something to be feared. There is treatment out there. And this is something that we also want to highlight, that up to 80% in some places of people living with epilepsy are not accessing the treatment, not because the medication doesn't exist, but because of misconceptions, because of lack of awareness. So should your child have this kind of a condition, please do seek help. Right down from the basic levels and higher up in the different strata of hospitals, there are treatment options available for your child.
And when it comes to you know, parents taking their children to the hospital, they have so many questions. Is this hereditary? Is it something that maybe happened when the mother was maybe pregnant? Maybe you can demystify these questions.
Right. Epilepsy has different causes. And you are right. There are those epilepsies that are genetically linked. So, you know, generation after generation, you might find that certain members of the family are experiencing epilepsy. But there are what we call idiopathic, which is epilepsy that does not have a specific cause. So, and remember, epilepsy can happen at any age. It can happen to a newborn, it can happen to a baby, it can happen to the old. So, a neurologist once told me, if you have a brain, you can have a seizure. So not all types have a cause, but there are those that happen after maybe, for instance, brain injury. So again, seeking help, speaking to your doctors, exploring what has happened, they would be able to then advise you, this epilepsy has happened because of an infection. It has happened because of hereditary reasons. It has happened because of trauma, or it has just happened. But the point we want to emphasize is there is treatment and there is hope, and you can live a full life even with epilepsy.
We'll be talking about more in regards to that. Does it maybe as you grow old, just like asthma, as you grow old, does things become better? But allow me to engage Otieno in regards to our healthcare systems. Are they well equipped to handle epilepsy in the country, and especially when it comes to mashinani, you know?
Yeah, the biggest challenge with the health system in managing epilepsy is that most of the time you'll find that epilepsy is believed to be able to be managed only in the upper levels of the healthcare system. We are forgetting that epilepsy can easily and comfortably be managed within the primary healthcare level once they are well equipped and the medications are provided. We have situations where initially there were no medications completely. Even if a person went to a health facilities, he was either sent back because even the practitioner at the facility believes on the myths and the misconceptions. But after much effort, now we have a situation where patients are retained within the facilities they go to first. They are treated and they are managed. We are minimizing the referral sequence of management of epilepsy. And ideally, we are looking at every county being able to manage epilepsy at the lowest cost possible. We started with Nairobi, where at the moment we are having approximately 29 health facilities giving medications for free.
In Nairobi,
which was not there initially, but now it's happening. So the advocacy is taking shape, and we are seeing results. So we are hoping that other counties will pick up, and the management of epilepsy will be available at the lowest health facility possible. So that is our whole game plan.
Yeah, I will still pose the same question as Otieno in regards to our capacity to handle this, and especially when it comes to, he's talked about 29, which is very encourageable, 29 health centers in Nairobi alone. I'm also looking at the cost itself, and from what you've done in Neuro-Rich Africa, because there's a gap that you're plugging.
Yes.
How are we doing in regards to the treatment and management when it comes to our health facilities?
Well, I think there's a lot to be done. And again, as you rightly said, there's a gap that we identified. So Nicholas and the team at Kawe and other organizations are really working hard in terms of providing this medication, affordable and even for free, as he's mentioned. But what Neuro-Reach specifically targets is the gap between the diagnosis, the prescription, and when you get home. So where we focus is providing support to the families between that diagnosis and when you're at home, because that's where the support is thinnest. So once you've gotten your prescription and you've headed home, you still have a lot of medication management in the house, seizure management in the house, the stigma, the worries about school. That is where we provide that support to the individuals and the families. So as more and more awareness comes into our media and through various other channels, we are able to meet that treatment gap, but we also need a lot of support in terms of how are these families coping with this same medication that you're giving them? Are they continuously taking this medication as prescribed? How are they handling the stigma at home and in the schools? Is the school agreeing to give this medication to the child whilst they're at school? So that's why we have to look at this holistically. So not only from the diagnosis and treatment, but all the way to the home. Yeah.
Otieno, take us through the management of epilepsy, especially for someone who has a patient at home. What are some of the do's and don'ts? And what are some of the things that many people don't understand or don't even know that they should be knowing?
Yeah, so basically, when someone has a seizure, first of all, there is that belief of where it came from. Most people still believe that it's as a result of witchcraft. Most people still believe that it's a curse. And most people still believe that it's as a result of possession by demons. And when they have these beliefs, the next point of action will be, if it is a curse, I'll take to a witch doctor. If it is a demon possession, I'll take them where they will be prayed for. Yep. Now, what this does to the whole system is that these patients will not come to health facilities, because they don't believe that it's a medical condition. Once they believe that it's not a medical condition, they'll do away with the hospital aspect of it. And that leads to the 80% treatment gap that we have. Only 20% of persons with epilepsy are coming to the facility. So there's a...
That leaves 80%?
Yes. We are only seeing 20% of persons with epilepsy within health facilities. 80% are still out there. Yeah. Again, we have a belief of epilepsy being contagious. That is why when a person has a seizure, the first reaction of persons around is usually to run away. They run away because they believe that if they touch this person, they'll get the seizure. Some people will not even share utensils with a person with epilepsy because they believe that they will contract the disease. Women with epilepsy are having challenges on situations where they need to get married. No one will accept to get married to a woman with epilepsy because they believe that all epilepsy is inherited. Not all epilepsy is inherited. So you will not have children who have epilepsy because you have epilepsy. As she said, most of the epilepsy we are managing is idiopathic. We don't know where it came from. And not everyone with epilepsy was born with epilepsy. So we always say that anything that can affect you can give you epilepsy. And most of the persons we are having getting epilepsy are getting it when they're adults. So a very small percentage is getting it when they're little. There's also another practice that happens where when a person has a seizure, you put a spoon in their mouth. It's a common factor that happens.
Yes.
What should be done is that you should not put anything when a person has a seizure. You should not put anything in their mouth. One, when you're putting that spoon in their mouth, you are forcing the spoon into their mouth. The first risk is you can break the jaw. The second risk is you can break the teeth. The third risk is you're introducing the infection to a tongue that has already been bitten. We have the injuries that will be there. By the time you even look for that spoon, the tongue biting that you're trying to prevent has already happened. So we usually insist, don't put anything in their mouth. If they happen to have injuries within their tongue, just manage it, the normal wound management, or if it's severe, you take it to a health facility. You've never met someone who has no tongue because he beat his tongue and it's no longer there. So the tongue injury is usually an assumption that they will either bite their tongue or they will swallow their tongue. They can't. So you don't put anything within their mouth. Take them to health facilities. They get treatment. It's not contagious. So allow persons with epilepsy to live their life just like any other person within the community without restricting them. We have situations where persons with epilepsy are having challenges in schools. They are chased from schools because some of them believe that these people are demon possessed. So when a person has a seizure in a school, the school is forced to write a letter not allowing the patient in that institution. Patients with epilepsy are allowed to be in normal schools, just like any other person, unless they have other comorbidities. So they are supposed to be in normal schools, not special schools. We also have challenges in workplaces where persons with epilepsy are not getting employment. Once they declare that they have epilepsy, they don't get employed because of the assumptions and the myths that are there with epilepsy. These persons are very productive, by the way. There was a case study on return on investment on mental conditions, and epilepsy came up as one of the conditions that have a very good return on investment. In every 1 shilling you invest in Kenya on a person with epilepsy, on the management of a person with epilepsy, you have a return of 5.5 shillings. So that is a good return. So invest on them. Don't look at that investment as expenditure. Look at that investment as something that will be productive in future. Because once you manage their seizure, they will be able to pay taxes. They will be able to perform their duties just like any other person. We have doctors who have epilepsy. We have lawyers who have epilepsy. We have industrialists who have epilepsy. And they are doing their work so well. Until they tell you that I have epilepsy, you will not know. So these are people who are able to live their life fully just like any other person if given a chance.
Yes. Doc, allow me to go to the basics. When I joined school back in the mid-80s, we had these issues in school and we used to run away. And to be very honest, back then we thought maybe it's some sort of a demon. Because everyone would run away. But you have come up with a way that it can make it a little bit easier. This is what I'm talking about. This is one of the books that Doc has written, The Day the Purple Kite Flew. It's more or less, maybe you can tell us why you decided to venture into book writing. My Friend Amani, by Phyllis Kimani. We also have Siku Kishada cha Zambarau Kilipopaa. It's an interesting one. The Siku Kishada cha Zambarau Kilipopaa. Why did you think maybe if you put this message into these books, it's going to change the way we look at epilepsy in the country?
Right. So mine is a personal story. As I mentioned, I'm not only a pharmacist, but I'm also a caregiver. So the story behind the book started with my own daughter. So when she started experiencing seizures, and her siblings started asking questions, what is happening to her? Is she going to be okay? I went on to Amazon and I looked and looked for a book that could explain it to her siblings and herself in a simple way, you know, that a child can understand. And I got the book. But whilst I was buying the book, I asked myself, what about that person in Wajir who doesn't have access to Amazon? What about that person deep in Kwale who's having this child having a seizure and doesn't even know that there's something like a book for children that can explain it to herself and her child about what's happening? So that's where the idea of writing a book actually started, through my own experience. So the books I have authored are in English, Kiswahili, and Shona, because what I'm trying to do is not only specific to Kenya. If anything, when we look at the Kenyan context, we're actually doing far better than our African neighbors. So as Nicholas mentioned, in Kenya we have about 30 practicing neurologists. In other countries, you have maybe 1 if you're lucky. So epilepsy is something that we need to tackle, the stigma behind it, should I say, from Kenya and beyond. So what I've done with the books is, as Nicholas has mentioned, the first aid, very simple steps, and the books have been looked at and given the stamp of approval by neurologists here in Nairobi, leading pediatric neurologists. And what we've done is we have reduced the first aid steps to 4 simple steps. Number 1, safe. Keep the person safe during a seizure. Number 2, stay. Stay with the person. The idea of when a person has a seizure, run away, no, stay by them. Nothing will happen to you, it's not contagious. Number 3, place them on their side. So when they're convulsing, sometimes you have a bit of vomit or some aspiration. So when you place them on their side, they're able to breathe better because that liquid can just flow safely. And then the 4th one is Saidia. If the seizure lasts more than 5 minutes, go to your nearest health facility. Because obviously when a seizure lasts too long, it can be dangerous to the patient. So by making it as simple as possible for children, for their teachers, for their parents, we are able to spread the message of first aid and awareness, inclusion and friendship at a very basic level.
Nick, I'm looking at the intersection of epilepsy and mental disorders. You will find that many people who suffer from epilepsy might also have other medical conditions, either because of isolation, either because of the stigma involved. Where do we pick it from there? And do we have situations where you found that people with epilepsy are also having mental conditions, and how were you able to help them?
Yeah, so first, there is always this confusion about epilepsy being a mental condition.
Yes.
Epilepsy in itself is a neurological condition. It's not a mental condition. But persons with epilepsy might experience stigma within the community. They get isolated, they don't get jobs, they get chased out of schools. That affects their mental capacity. They might get into depression, they might get into situations where they are not mentally okay. Now, when this happens, you will find that the assumption is all these people are dependent. They cannot be independent. They have to be helped to do whatever they want to do. So we first make sure that the awareness is there, so that they don't experience the stigma within the community, because that exclusion will lead them to first personal stigma. They will not accept themselves as persons with disability. So once you mention epilepsy, you will have an issue. So one, you will allow them to accept their condition as a medical condition. Then you get to the interpersonal stigma, where now the family members are stigmatizing them, in that they are overprotective. They don't want these patients to go out there and do things. They will find that persons with epilepsy are locked somewhere, because the assumption is when the community knows that we have a person with epilepsy, we will be excluded. So when that happens, this also affects these persons with epilepsy mentally. Then we have the community now stigmatizing these people, the angle of schooling and the workplaces. Now, when this happens, these people are not able to fend for themselves. This also leads to other mental conditions. Then we have seizures that are not controlled properly. When you don't manage seizures properly, it will lead to complications. So most people that will come with comorbidities, like there's this assumption that persons with epilepsy are mad. They are not mad people, they are just normal people. But you'll find that the seizure is not managed properly, and it leads to those complications. So in normal circumstances, it is just a neurological condition, and it's not a mental condition. But it can lead to mental conditions if not managed properly. Consider that most of persons with epilepsy will also not. They will come with epilepsy, but some of them will come with comorbidities. Comorbidities means that a person has epilepsy and he has cerebral palsy, has epilepsy, he has autism, has epilepsy, has Down syndrome. So we are approaching this angle of epilepsy management with a holistic approach, whereby we are doing the intersectoral management of epilepsy. Different sectors are involved. The mental sector is involved, the neurological sector is involved, and we are using a plan known as the Intersectoral Global Action Plan on epilepsy and other neurological disorders. So it is a 10-year plan that was authorized by the WHO, and it started from 2022 to 2031. So that is a 10-year plan, and we are looking forward to making sure that we achieve the expected plans and goals for the plan to work. So basically, we are not approaching epilepsy in itself. We are approaching epilepsy with other neurological condition and with the mental aspect of management, because it comes as a whole package.
Doc, why are many Kenyans diagnosis comes late, and what happens if somebody is on the medication, either because of finances or because of maybe the location abruptly stops the medication? What happens?
So to answer your first question, why does it take so long for people to actually be on the medication? It's, as Nicholas has mentioned, it's the stigma. So we always say in Africa, which carries 80% of the world's should I say, Africa and other low and middle income countries carry 80% of the epilepsy burden globally.
Why is that? That's a very huge number.
It is quite huge. And, you know, globally we have 50 million people who are suffering from epilepsy. And out of that, 80% are in low and middle income countries. Now, what we say is, out of those, the people who are coming to the facilities are 20%. Yeah, so there's the 80% that are still not coming. So the question is why? Again, back to the stigma, back to the distance. So if there are some countries, as I mentioned, who only have one neurologist, and when the care is concentrated to the referral hospitals, you can understand that the millions of people, you know, at the grassroots level will not have access to this care. So what we then say is, if we tackle the stigma, if we tackle the distance, whereby we're bringing care closer to the families, not leaving them into the referral institutions, then that will kind of, you know, reduce that gap. On the second question, you asked what happens if someone starts the medication and then abruptly stops them. It can lead to seizures, and sometimes it can lead to worsening of the seizures. So that is why it is very important. There's a way in which the medication is, as we call it, tapered up. So you don't start at a maximum dose. You start slow, and my colleague Nicholas and his team would then build you up to the required dose. And similarly, when it's time for you to stop this medication, the colleagues will taper you down, so you do not ever just stop abruptly. So there's a way and there's a science behind how to start them and how to stop them. And this should be done through, you know, trained professionals.
You're also a caregiver, and to many people, caregivers are the first line of defense. They are the first doctors. You're also a doctor, which actually enhances that. What are some of the do's and don'ts that you can advise somebody who is taking care of somebody who is epileptic, or somebody who's watching us and is epileptic? What are some of the do's and don'ts?
So what I'd say as the do's, do take your medication as prescribed. Do visit your healthcare provider as recommended. If you're on a monthly clinic, attend your clinics. If for those who are more stable, you can be given a clinic every 3 months, every 6 months, attend your clinics as recommended. Do make sure that you have sufficient rest. So as an epileptic, sleep is very important, and rest is very important. Those are some of the things that can be triggers. If you're not well rested, alcohol is one of them as well. They can actually cause or worsen your seizures. So drinking in moderation, and there are those who may have to not drink at all. So following those instructions as per what the doctors recommend is one of my strongest do's. The ones I'd say don't are, as my colleague mentioned, don't put anything in the mouth. Don't, you know, again, in different cultures, especially in Africa, we have some communities that throw hot water on a person who is convulsing. Don't do those kind of things. They don't help. So again, let's stick to the science. Let's stick to the facts. What epilepsy has suffered most from is the myths that have had thousands of years of head start. Now, in 2026, we have the facts, we have the science. So let's now spread the gospel of the truth. You know, this is a condition, this is what you do, and this is what you don't do.
Otieno, I'm looking at the gaps in the Kenya's epilepsy care systems. Being in the field for a number of years, what have you been able to deduce? Because the one thing that I got is that we have at least 29 facilities that can manage that here in Nairobi alone. But if you decide to talk about Mandera, then the numbers come down.
Yes.
That is one of the gaps that I've also identified. What are some of the gaps you've been able to identify?
So the first gap is usually the information gap. Information gap, people are not informed that epilepsy is a medical condition. So we handle that by communicating to the community, engaging the community health promoters, and engaging the elders within the community and the security system. We even involve the chiefs. So once the awareness aspect is done, we look at the treatment gap. The treatment gap now entails making sure that these health facilities are well equipped. Well equipped means that the personnel there are able to manage epilepsy. Once they are able to manage epilepsy, are they provided with the required medication? I might be able to manage epilepsy, but I don't have the medication in the facility. So we also ensure that the medications and the needs within the facilities are catered for. And we do this by approaching the health committee within the county assembly, because budgets are approved within the health committee. And most of the time you'll find that if epilepsy was budgeted for, and the person who is supposed to approve this budget is not aware of epilepsy as a medical condition, the funds will be diverted to other conditions that are deemed more important. So we also go to the county health committees to ensure that they understand that epilepsy is a medical condition with the help of the county health management team, so that these budgets, once they are written by the health team within the facility, the county Assembly Health Committee understands that epilepsy is a treatable medical condition, so that the budgets that have been written within the facilities are approved, so that these facilities are given the required medications and the required equipments that they need to make sure that this is available. So once we do that, we will be able to make sure that epilepsy is managed comfortably at the primary health care level. Because the biggest challenge is the expense of referral and taking patients to the referral centers, where the population is so high, they'll be booked for long before they get the medication. The consultation is expensive, and they need transport to go to those places. So you are making it easier for that person to access medication where he is. And once we do that, things will be easier.
All right. As we wrap up, Doc, this is good. This is good. And as Njue Reach Africa, you're trying to reach every corner that you can, and especially when we begin small, you know, our kids, then they become teenagers. We have a better understanding of this. What more are you doing as Njue Reach, and what more needs to be done in Africa to change this perception? 80% of the world's burden is a big number.
Yes, there is a big task ahead of us, but we are ready and we are working towards closing this gap. So, as I said, we are working on research as well. So research into digital tools that patients and families can access through the comfort of their homes on their phones. So please do watch out for this space. We will be coming back with some more on that. But this book, I want it to reach every corner of the country, every corner of Africa.
Where can people get these books?
So as of the end of this week, we will start with Ava Pharmacy. This is a pharmacy that is based in Karen, in Mombasa, and in Westlands. So we're starting there, and also the Karen Pediatric Clinic. So that is a pediatrician who's based in Karen. And there'll be more locations announced through our social media pages. So please do follow us on Njue Reach Africa. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yes, so plenty to come.
Thank you. That has been Dr. Phyllis Kimani, who is a pharmacist, caregiver, and also a Njue Reach Africa founder, just trying to create more awareness. And as you can see, she's doing a fantastic job in ensuring that all Kenyans, and especially when we begin with our kids, trust me, we will change the perception, we will change the myths, we will change all that. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. And just next to her, we have Nicholas Otieno, who is a clinical epileptologist and also a member of KAWE. Many thanks indeed for joining us and for your insights. If you would want more discussion in that, kindly reach us out. If you're somebody who needs help, kindly reach us out on our social media spaces, and we will be able to not only connect you, you'll be able to get help. That's where we put a cap on KBC News Check at this Tuesday morning. Still, we have 2-3 minutes to 12. I'm now giving the baton to my friend and colleague Khalid Abdullahi for the Swahili version of Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. Many thanks. I'm Ben Troy Njue. Lucy Mwaura has been my co-anchor on the bottom of your screen.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even